There are moments in life when silence becomes heavier than words, when your heart wants to scream, but your dignity forces you to stay quiet, when people underestimate you, laugh at you, ignore you, or talk behind your back, and you still choose not to respond. This story is about a young man named Ethan, a boy whose soul was louder than his voice, a boy who chose silence, not because he was weak, but because he was waiting for the right moment to let his actions speak for him. Ethan grew up in a small town where dreams were considered distractions, and ambition was seen as foolishness. His father worked at a repair shop. His mother stitched clothes for neighbors. They weren't poor in spirit, but life pushed them hard every single day. Ethan was different from other kids, quiet, observant, always thinking, always dreaming, and that was enough for the world to label him as the silent one, the soft one, the insignificant one. As Ethan grew older, his silence became a magnet for ridicule. In school, teachers dismissed him because he didn't raise his hand. Students mocked him because he didn't fight back. Even his close friends joked that he would never become anything important, because he couldn't even defend himself in an argument. But Ethan had a secret he carried deep in his chest, a flame he never allowed anyone to see. He believed in something powerful. When your focus is on talking, you lose energy. But when your focus is on working silently, the universe listens louder. But belief alone doesn't protect you from pain. And Ethan's story took a painful turn one afternoon during senior year. Music grows deeper. It was the annual presentation day. Students had been preparing for months. Ethan had worked silently on a project. He poured his entire heart into a device he designed himself. A small but brilliant invention that converted motion into usable electrical energy. He didn't tell anyone. Not his teachers, not his classmates, not even his parents. He wanted the world to see it when it was complete, not when it was in the making. But on the morning of the presentation, something happened that changed everything. Ethan's project disappeared. Someone had broken into the science lab and stolen his work. The display board was torn. The device was missing, and in its place, someone had written for painful words. Silent boys fail silently. When Ethan saw those words, something inside him cracked, not his confidence, but his heart. His teacher shrugged and said, "See, that's what happens when you don't speak." How can we help a student who doesn't even communicate? Students laughed, as if it was entertainment. Even the principal said, "These creative kids, always dreaming but never securing their work." Ethan stood there with tears in his eyes, but he didn't respond. Not because he was weak, but because he knew arguments could never rebuild what was destroyed. Only action could. Ethan walked out of school, alone, thinking that maybe silence was a mistake. Maybe the world only respected noise. Maybe real life didn't reward quiet people. But evening, Ethan sat in his small room, staring at the empty table where his project used to sit. His mother entered quietly and placed a cup of warm tea beside him. She didn't ask what happened. She looked into his eyes, and she knew. She simply said, "Son, diamonds don't shout, but they are still valued. The sun doesn't speak, but it still shines. Flowers don't argue, but they still bloom. Nature itself teaches us that true beauty and true power don't need noise." Her words softened the storm inside him, but it wasn't enough to erase the humiliation he faced. For a moment, Ethan felt like giving up, like silence was a curse and not a strength, like his effort meant nothing. But just when he began to let despair sink in, his father knocked on the door, a man of few words, hardened by life, but honest to his core. He handed Ethan an old, rusty screwdriver from his repair shop and said, "Son, this tool has fed our family for years. It never speaks, but it fixes everything. Be like this. Silent, useful, unstoppable." Then he left the room. Ethan held the screwdriver in his hand as if it was a message written in metal. Fix. Don't fight. Build. Don't argue. Work. Don't complain. That night, something awakened in Ethan's mind. A fire. A focus. A promise. He whispered to himself. They took my project. But they didn't take my ability to create. They destroyed one thing, but they didn't destroy me. And in that moment, deep in the silence of the night, he made a decision that would change everything. He decided to rebuild his entire project from scratch in just 10 days. For the National Science Expo, An event 50 times larger than the school exhibition, a stage where thousands would see his work. A platform where silence would roar. For 10 days and 10 nights, Ethan worked like a man possessed. No sleep, no breaks, no complaints. The world didn't know what he was doing. No one saw him. No one believed in him. But that didn't matter, because Ethan wasn't working to prove people wrong. He was working to prove himself right. His room turned into a workshop. Wires everywhere. Tools scattered. Blueprints taped on the wall. There were days the device failed. Short circuits burned his fingers. Machines broke repeatedly, but every time failure tried to scare him, silence answered. Silence pushed him. Silence strengthened him. Silence became his superpower. Finally, after 10 brutally intense days, the device was ready. Improved, stronger, smarter, more refined than the original version. Ethan looked at it with tears of pride, whispering, "This time, no one can take it from me." The expo day arrived. Thousands of students from across the country gathered, judges with decades of experience. Scientists, engineers, innovators. But in the middle of all that noise was Ethan, silent, focused, calm, with a small, simple table and a powerful invention that had taken every ounce of his heart to rebuild. He placed the device gently on the table. People passed by without noticing him. Flashy, confident students from elite schools drew large crowds. But Ethan stood quietly beside his work. No shouting, no advertising, no drama. Just presence. Just patience. Then, a senior judge walked by Dr. Rowland, a world-famous engineer known for detecting brilliance. Instantly, he stopped. He looked at Ethan's device. Then he asked softly, "Who made this?" Ethan pointed at himself silently. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Explain it." Ethan took a breath and spoke slowly, step by step, describing the science behind his creation. His words were simple, his explanation clear, his voice steady. The more Ethan explained, the quieter the hall became. People started gathering around him. Students, teachers, scientists. A small crowd grew larger, and larger, and larger. By the time Ethan finished, the judge didn't say a word. He simply nodded, deeply moved. The crowd erupted into applause, not because Ethan shouted for attention, but because his work demanded it. That night, during the final ceremony, something happened that Ethan would never forget for the rest of his life. The lights dimmed. The host walked up to the podium, and then came the announcement that froze Ethan's heart. This year's National Innovation Award goes to Ethan Hill for a groundbreaking energy conversion invention created entirely through silent dedication. Ethan's legs trembled as he walked onto the stage, thousands of people cheering. Cameras flashing, judges standing. The same silent boy who was mocked, laughed at, dismissed, betrayed, was now receiving the highest honor in the entire hall. When he held the trophy, tears streamed down his face. Not tears of achievement, but tears of resurrection. Tears of redemption. Tears of a silent victory. After the ceremony, an organizer approached him and said, "Your humility is rare. Students usually show off. You stayed quiet." Ethan smiled gently and said, "When you learn to let your actions speak, noise becomes unnecessary." The next day, his story reached the school. The people who mocked him were stunned. The ones who underestimated him were silent. The ones who stole his project vanished from shame. And Ethan, he didn't confront anyone. He didn't take revenge. He didn't expose the culprit. He didn't say a single word. He simply walked into school, placed the National Award trophy on the teacher's desk, bowed respectfully, and walked away. Silence became his weapon. Silence became his answer. Silence became his victory. Ethan's life changed dramatically after that. Universities offered scholarships. Companies approached him for his design. Newspapers interviewed him. But success didn't make him loud. Fame didn't change his heart. He remained the same boy, the one who believed in working quietly. The one who believed effort speaks louder than ego. The one who believed actions echo longer than words. Years passed, and Ethan became one of the most respected young engineers in the country. Not because he bragged, not because he pushed others down, but because he worked consistently, humbly, silently. He later said in an interview, "If you must choose between talking and doing, choose doing. Words may catch attention, but actions create transformation." And here lies the powerful moral of this story. Let the world talk. Let the world doubt. Let the world gossip. You stay quiet. You stay focused. You stay committed. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is preparation. Silence is discipline. Silence is the birthplace of greatness. People who talk rarely do. People who do rarely talk. And those who mastered the art of silent progress eventually mastered life itself. And here is your final message. One line that can reshape your destiny. Stop announcing your goals and start announcing your results through your actions.